Oops, came in. How do I get
Go
that
to
in?
participants. And there you go.
Sweet. All right, good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you today. I am going to fill in for Shakira today. She's not able to be with us, but I first of all want to thank you all for your commitment to this work. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. We are all living and working in challenging times, and the work that we are doing is so critical because it's about our health and wholeness as a community. And so I just want to personally thank each and every one of you for dedicating your time. Many of you have full-time work and go the extra mile anyway. And I just can't say enough on behalf of myself and Roanoke City Council for who you are and what you do and the difference you make in this community and throughout our state. So thank you all so much for being here and being a part of this important work. At this time, I want to invite our Secretary, Tasha Steele, to call the roll for the study committee.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Joe. Okay, I will begin with, we know Shakira's not here today. Courtney Penn, Tasha Steele, and I'm present. Nicole Ross, Antoine Calloway, Decca Knight,
Here.
Rabbi Kathy Cohen, Natasha Saunders, Jordan Bell.
Here.
Irisha, okay, good morning, Jordan. Irisha Goodman,
Here, good morning.
Reverend David Jones, Joshua Johnson, Bishop J.L. Jackson, Stacy Shepard,
Here.
Hannah Oakes,
Here.
David Thomas, Dr. Mark Hamill, Reverend Tim Harvey.
Here.
Was that here? Is that?
Yes, here.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Anthony West, Mayor Sherman Lee, and Council Member Joe Cobb.
Tasha, you got it right.
Awesome.
Way to go. Sometimes these transitions are a little more challenging.
They are
than we think they
challenging. It
are.
took me a second to remember to do that.
But just so everyone knows, I've completed my term as vice mayor for the city, and now I'm council member Cobb. Our new vice mayor is Trish White Boyd. And in addition, our new council members are Robert Jeffrey Jr. and Stephanie Moon Reynolds. So thank you all for helping us communicate those changes and transitions. I'm gonna move on ahead to our data update from the Roanoke Police Department. And I know that Alicia Morrison, Alicia, I hope I'm getting your your first name correct. If not, please correct me.
That's correct, sir.
All right, thank you. I want to thank Alicia, who is the senior crime analyst with our iStar team with the Roanoke Police Department, who has been so helpful in providing us data for our monthly meetings and in between. And I also want to thank everyone in the police department who's part of this call today and part of our regular calls. I will say to Chief Roman and Deputy Chief Smith, we'll probably need to talk with you all about someone from PD to take Josh Johnson's place on the study committee. If his responsibilities is shifted to the degree that he can't continue to participate, we'd love to have input from you on who you think would be the best person to take over from him on the study committee. So if you could think about that, that would be great. Alicia, where would you like to start with the reports? I have all of them ready to load. I just need to know where you'd like to start.
We can start with the demographics data since that was requested at the last meeting.
Okay. This the right one?
Let's see. I still see the agenda.
You might have to stop.
Okay, hold on. I'm still learning Zoom.
I'd like to do that, you would think, but
I tried to just switch over, but for some reason it wasn't showing it. Okay, let's try that. Is that showing up now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
All right. So in the calendar year of 2020, from January 1st to December 31st of 2020, we had 58 incidents in which a individual was struck with gunfire. And at the last meeting in December, the task force requested the age demographics. So the chart on the left-hand side shows the age range for both the offenders and the victims for all of those incidents in 2020. It should be noted that there are 27 incidents in which an offender has not been identified, and there are also some incidents that had more than one offender. And there were more than one victim in some incidents as well. As you can see from the chart, the majority of both the offender and the victims fall between the ages of 18 and 29. So it's definitely young adults engaging in this behavior. And then clearance rates for the gunshot related incidents. There are 14 that are still being actively investigated. There are 12 that have been closed by arrest. One has a warrant on file. And then there are 9 that are closed exception. Of those 9, 8 were due to lack of victim cooperation. The victim did not wish to go forward with charges or the investigation. And then the additional incident prosecution was denied.
So to just recap, Alicia, on the gunshot related incidents, it appears that in terms of offenders and victims, the majority are in the up to 17 and 18 to 29 age range. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. The majority of both the offenders and the victims are under 30 years of age.
Okay, very helpful. Are there questions from the study committee or working group members on this particular data? You can either unmute and ask your question, just identify yourself, or you can put the question in the chat box.
I have a quick question, and I think it's just because I'm not well versed in some of this. What does prosecution was denied? What does that mean?
If I could, I would like to defer that question to Captain Puckett. He is the captain over our Criminal Investigations Bureau, and I will let him speak to that as that is more his matter of expertise than mine.
Thank you.
That can mean a variation of things, but the most common one is, for instance, we had a homicide on Center Avenue a few weeks back. The victim was attacking a woman, and the woman's son shot the victim in self-defense. And the prosecuting or the Commonwealth attorney right now is determining whether or not he's going to proceed with charges. If he does not proceed with charges, that would be one of those closed exception cases, prosecution decline. So
that makes sense.
Like that, typically speaking.
That makes perfect sense. Thanks for explaining that to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Captain Puckett. Great question, Tasha. Any further questions on this particular data? Of course, and we all know this, but just as a reminder, the data is helpful to us in terms of evidence-based work that we're doing, but all of these numbers that we see here are connected to people and to families and to neighbors and to this community. And, the depth of the impact of what we're seeing here is extraordinary. I know that we all know that, but it's important, I think, for us to remember that when we're looking at these pieces of data. All right, which one would you like to go to next, Alicia?
We can go to the calendar year 2020.
Okay, one more question before I go to that.
Yes, sir.
This is from Philip Clements. We're always asking for more data, but a couple of the questions are, is there a way to get a deeper breakdown of the age brackets, like for the 18 to 29, 0 to 17, for example, to narrow that down, to hone in on that, to focus that a little more?
Yes, that's possible. I have the individual, we had so many individuals that were 18 years old, so many that were 19, so many that were 20. I could have that to you by the end of the day.
Okay, that'd be great. Then I can send it out to everybody. Thank you. All right. Tell me again which one you'd like to go to.
Calendar year 2020
Okay.
is the name that I can see.
And you can slide that top bar over to be able to see if it'll let you pop.
Oh, hold on.
Well, you can do it that way too. Where the calendar, see if it'll let you do that. See if they can still see it though. You might have to stop share.
Has it come up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
So this is a map of all of the incidents that occurred January 1st through December 31st of 2020. As you can see on the map, the black points on the map are aggravated assaults. That is a survivable gunshot wound. The red points on the map are homicides. That was a fatal gunshot wound. And then the blue points on the map are a incident in which we had multiple victims, one of which suffered a fatal gunshot wound and one of which had a survivable gunshot wound. We had 2 of those incidents in 2020. So this just gives you a visual representation of those 58 incidents.
Okay. Any questions regarding this information? This is a map that is regularly updated for us on a month-to-month basis. So this is not new information, but for folks who may be new to our meeting today, this might be the first time you're seeing it. Okay, hold on a second. Yes, Jordan asked, are we able to see this map in an email? Jordan, I actually did send this out earlier when I sent out the announcement for the meeting. It was an attachment. You may, I'm hoping that I have the email that you use most frequently. You may want to send that to me, but I can also resend this out after today's meeting. Okay. All right, Alicia, we're ready for the next one.
All right. Let's see.
The 10-year?
Yes, let's do that.
Right, is that showing
So
up?
this was, yes, sir.
Okay.
So this was another request from Councilman Cobb. This is 10-year homicide and suicide data by firearm. So what this shows is from 2009 to 2020, and it only goes through December 1st of 2020 because that's when the request was completed. It shows the amount of homicides we had that were caused by a firearm in each zone for each year. That's the top left-hand corner.
Alicia, can I
Yes, sir.
stop you for just a second? Can you, before we go on, can you remind us which areas of the city are connected to each zone?
Yes, so zone 1 is the Belmont area, downtown, Mill Mountain, those areas. Then zone 2 is Valley View, Williamson Road, that area of the city. Zone 3 is the southwest sector of the city with Hurt Park, Grandin, those areas, Franklin Road. And then zone 4 is the northwest section of the city with Orange and Melrose, Loudon, Lincoln Terrace, places like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So as you can see, we have the top left-hand corner is the homicides by firearm from January 1st through December 1st, 2009 to 2020. Then the top right-hand corner is the aggravated assault by firearm organized by zone. And it also goes until December 1st of 2020. And then we have the suicides by firearm by zone for the same time frame.
Now, this is the first time for the study committee and working group, this is the first time we're seeing specific data related to suicides. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Are there any initial questions you all have regarding any of this data? We've been receiving information about homicides and aggravated assaults on a regular basis, but this is the first time to receive information regarding suicides. And again, if you have follow-up questions or you want to dive any deeper into any of this, if you could just send your requests to me, then I can pass those on to Alicia. And you know, some of these data requests are pretty easy to fulfill. Some of them require a lot more effort. So I just want to make us aware that on some of this we need to have some extraordinary patience. But on some of it, it's pretty easy to turn around. Okay, let me check the chat box here. I think do we have access to aggravated assaults by age?
That's something that I could provide by this afternoon as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you for that question, Rabbi. All right, Alicia, I was trying to remember, were those the 3 data documents?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to come out of this and come out of screen share. And any general questions at this point for Alicia or for Captain Puckett or Deputy Chief Smith or Chief Roman? I know that since our last meeting, we had like over a 72-hour period, a number of incidents that were very difficult. I don't know that there's any additional information that can be shared on those incidents in relation to the work that we're doing, but if there is, Chief, any additional insights you'd like to offer?
This time we can't share any further because they're currently under investigation.
Okay, That's what I understood, but I did want to check. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is Lindsay from Channel 7. Can I ask a question?
Sure, Lindsay.
So hello, everyone. We probably aren't able to release this info, but I have been hearing that the Valley View Mall shooting is related to the Wasina drive-by shooting. It was some sort of retaliation event. And I spoke with a neighbor that said he was talking to a sergeant who's head of the gang unit, who was telling him that they're both gang related. I was just wondering if there was any more info you could provide on this.
Unfortunately, because our ultimate goal is obviously to bring justice to the victims and the families of victims, it's very hard for us to share that information right now to keep the integrity of the case.
Okay.
All right, thank you for the question and for the response. All right, I'm going to pull up our agenda again so we can shift back to that. So if you'll bear with me. Okay, I'm going to go back up to our minutes. We now have a quorum with the study committee. And so I'd like to ask for a motion from a member of the study committee to approve our minutes from our November and December meetings.
So moved.
Who was that?
Me, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Stacy Shepherd, second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all those on the study committee who vote to approve the minutes from November and December say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed say no. And they are approved. Thank you. I want to move down to item number 6, updates on working groups. I know that our working groups have been working diligently and nearly all of them will be moving into work sessions as part of this meeting this morning. I wanted to just check and see if there were any short updates that any of you would like to give. I'll start with safer neighborhoods. Tim, is there any quick update you'd like to give on your work?
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was a little suspicious about my microphone. No, I do not believe we have an update for this portion of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Education, Tasha or Decca?
I'm on mute. No, we don't have any new updates for you at this time.
Okay. Rabbi Cohen, any updates on reducing gang violence and recidivism?
No updates at this time.
Okay. Stacy, anything from city services and rapid response?
No updates at this time.
Okay. For marketing and communications, I will share with you all, we had our initial meeting and strategy session in December. We had great attendance and excellent input. This is the initial effort to kind of focus in on the type of messaging and communications we want to extend, not only from the work of this study committee and working groups, but then efforts to, on a broader base scale, to engage the community in messaging and communication that will help reduce gun violence in the coming years. The next strategy session will be set up for later this month, and I'll be sending out a doodle poll. Any of you that are interested in being a part of that, you can certainly let me know and I can make sure you're a part of that distribution list. The initial session recording is on our website, so you can feel free to tune into that on roanokeva.gov under the study committee's page. A couple other updates I will share with you. One is some really good news. We received a donation from a citizen in the city for $3,000 to go toward the Safer Neighborhoods Public Art Project that they are working on. So that's a celebration. On March 12th, our March meeting, we are going to participate as a study committee and working group members in a trauma training event led by our own Tasha Steele. Tasha, would you like to say a few words about that?
Sure. So for those of you who are not aware, we do have a trauma-informed community network here in Roanoke. It is a very diverse group of stakeholders around Roanoke City, where our goal is to educate organizations and groups on trauma. And what better way to to kind of really bring that in this group, because one thing that we know is that trauma oftentimes is why these things happen, but it also, what we know is that it induces trauma, right? When someone is hurt or killed or harmed due to gun violence. And so we want to make sure that everyone who's involved on this team, that everyone understands, number one, what trauma is. A lot of people think of trauma and think head trauma. And that's not what we're talking about. And so to really help people understand what trauma is and how, as community members, as members of this study committee, how we can, really make a difference with having that trauma-informed lens in the work that we're doing. So that will take place on March 12th. Thank you.
Thank you, Tasha. I appreciate that. A suggestion I wanted to make for the Safer Neighborhoods group to consider, and maybe the study committee as a whole, during our Bridging the Community Gap event, one of the kind of central parts of that event was the community pledge to nonviolence. And I'm wondering if, as you all meet today, if we might recommend that as part of a social media effort, that this is a really great way to involve the larger community in signing on to this kind of a pledge. If you all could think about that in your conversation today, that's just a suggestion. But it's a real tangible thing that I think is a commitment that we can broadly make. So if you'd consider that, that'd be great. The last update that I have is our city manager, Bob Cowell, is working to ensure some additional staff support for our work as a study committee and working groups. And that is likely to be available to us in the next month or so. So I just wanted to share that with you. That will be very helpful to us. And I'm grateful to our city manager and the staff here that works alongside us, and particularly to Tiffany Bradbury, who tells me what I need to do when on Zoom. So, all right. Well, we are going to move into our working groups, and if you'll just give me a moment, I'm going to make sure that we have folks assigned. The gang violence reduction group is going to stay here in the main room. If for some reason I don't get someone assigned, I'll come back to you and ask you where you'd like to participate. So hold tight for just a moment. Okay, I'm going to send this all out, and then those who aren't assigned, I'll double check with you It is 10:35 right now. Let's do a couple things. Let's come back in at 11:15. If your working groups don't need that much time, why don't you just send me a chat? And that's fine. If once your working group is done, you can just sign off. Our next meeting will be February 12th, I believe, at 10 o'clock. Working groups are encouraged to meet in between time. You just need to let me know when you're going to meet so that we can put that on the city's calendar. And here we go. Okay. I've got here in the main room our gang violence reduction and incarceration recidivism group. I want to make sure, I know that Angela, Elliott, Rabbi Cohen, Jim, Brent is new with us today, Alice. Decca, I need to get you reassigned. Hold on a second. Okay. We've got media in here as well as some of our, is Tom media?
Tom's media.
Okay, as well as RPD. Are you all okay staying in this conversation, or do any of you want to switch out to any of the other working groups?
This works for me.
This is
Okay.
good. Thank you.
Okay,
This works for
all
Chancellor.
right, great.
Yeah, we remain in this one also.
Okay, thank you.
Works for me.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And by the way, welcome, Tim. Tim is our new city attorney. I think this is your first meeting with us, so thank you, Tim, for being here. We appreciate your support. Brent Duncan is new to our group. And Brent, would you take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for your consideration. I am currently working with District 15 Probation and Parole. I am a senior probation officer, and I have been employed for the last 20 years. The last 11 years, I have been working with gang supervision. I supervise the gang unit for District 15. It's comprised of myself. We have 2 probation officers. One of the names is Christine Davis. The other one is right now we're having it's a vacant position, but we're looking to hire for that position. And I have a surveillance officer from Roanoke City Police, Johnny Buzzo. So all of us work together and supervise gang offenders for Roanoke City, Roanoke County, Salem, and the town of Benton. In the past, we've worked with Roanoke City quite a bit on numerous cases. I've also had the pleasure of working with Mr. Major on some of the cases that are gang affiliated with the Dorcas House program. We do nothing but gang supervision, so we have a lot of offenders and we're familiar with their affiliations. We might be able to be of assistance to any of you with information as to their affiliation, nicknames, tattoos, and so forth. So we're willing to step up and try to help out any way we can. Just let me know how we can be of more service to you, and we'll go forward. But I appreciate the opportunity, as this is our first meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Brent. We're really happy to have you here with us. And Elliot, thank you for helping us make that connection. Got somebody in the waiting room I need to let in, so hold on a sec. Danielle, welcome back. I wanted to ask which working group you'd like to listen in on today.
Hey, thank you. I'm sorry I have a awful internet connection. I'm in the Safer Neighborhoods working group.
Okay, I will send you there just a moment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danielle. Okay, just to give a bit of a recap, Rabbi, do you want to give a little bit of a recap of some of the work that we did last time? I'm going to bring up a screen share of the some of the 5 strategic areas we're kind of reviewing as part of our comprehensive gang reduction model. Hold on. Everybody see that?
Joe, my eyes are very old. Could you make it larger?
I will try.
You might have to on her end.
You might have to do it on your end.
Okay.
I think that she can.
Ah, great. Thank you.
Did that help or not help?
It did, and then it went away.
Is that
There
better?
we go. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you. So just as a review, we have been studying several different models, and we met with people from Danville and Richmond to talk about their models, and spoke further about these 5 different very important issues and challenges to move forward with the idea of ultimately being able to hire somebody for Roanoke City who would be responsible for being in the community and working with the police department and different organizations to work with young people, either who may ultimately be at risk for joining gangs or who are looking for ways to get out of gangs, and giving them other opportunities to move forward with.
Thank you. At our last meeting, we started to explore these in more detail. But I think with some new faces today, we might want to just review these 5 key areas. Our goal is that by the end of this month, we'll have some key strategies within these 5 areas that can be part of a plan for our work together on this issue. Kathy, would you feel comfortable, or do you want me to? I'm good either way. Moving us through these 5 key areas today.
Sure, I'll be happy to. Now that you made them larger and I can see them, it's even better. So the first one, the community mobilization, involvement of local citizens, including former gang-involved youth, community groups, agencies, and coordination of programs and staff functions within and across agencies. So this is relatively global, and you know, one of the things that we need to think about is that in this particular area, we can miss important organizations, and we can have too many people involved here for really something that's functioning. So it's, you know, it really is a bit of a challenge to figure out exactly who needs to be involved and where they should be involved. My personal opinion is, at least on an initial level, the more involvement we have from stakeholder groups, the better. Opportunities, provision, development of a variety of specific education, training, and employment programs targeting gang-involved youth. Joe, I would like to add to that at the end there, and at-risk youth as well. One of the things that we have heard in different communities is that when there are both educational and employment opportunities for these youth, that it is a much, much easier transition out of a gang when they're ready to do so than if they feel that there is nothing for them to go to and no way forward. Social intervention involving youth service or serving agents. I'm sorry.
Kathy, can I pause there for just a minute?
Sure.
It might be helpful for us to get some input from folks on the meeting about these as we go. I was just going to highlight on the opportunities provision section. At our last meeting, we talked about some pretty broad areas, including connections with vocational training. Elliot has really helped inspire our conversation around how in many cases the work that we're doing here is really focused on creating more opportunity so that kids have a broader scale of ways to be engaged in the community as options to gangs. And so that it's critical that we have that intersection with vocational training, with local service providers, and even the therapeutic approach. Some of this is a crossover to social intervention. But for those of you in this session right now, as you look at these first two, community mobilization and opportunities provision, what are some insights you'd like to share or some connecting points that maybe we aren't yet aware of that would be helpful for us as we hone in on these two areas?
Well, looking at what is presented here, since I'm new to this task force, has there been any mention of involving Straight Street, with underprivileged youth in Roanoke City, as far as gang suppression and as far as getting more involved in the community, as maybe possibly having ex-gang members to come out and speak to younger kids, community groups, to tell them the negative effects of being part of a gang? Has that been presented or thought about?
It has. It's a great point. I don't know that we've had Straight Street, Keith Farmer involved specifically, but one of the things that we're really interested in is expanding our community partners. And so that's a critical addition, I believe. But we have talked pretty extensively about identifying ex-gang members who already have some street credibility, who have experienced transformation in their own lives, who want to make a positive impact in the community, and how to best go about including them as mentors, and then doing training work, which is part of the opportunities provision. Anybody, Kathy, Elliot, want to add to that? Jamie, I know we've talked about it. We're just not yet at the stage where we've clearly identified those folks and reached out to them.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think, Brent, that at least what we've got right now is trying to just get some consensus on the model that we're going to take in our approach to this over here. So, the guy from Straight Street is great. He may fall under one of these categories, community mobilization or something of that nature, just to bring it in. So all of those things are on the table. We just want to make sure that we all have, again, a consensus of the structure that we're going to operate under. So it's not to say that they won't have it over here. I think Straight Street is a great program. I think Mentors is a great program, but we need to make sure we've got something that we can communicate to the broader group on how we're going about this, because no one entity or one thing is going to be the solution, and that's what the model really demonstrates.
Jamie, Jim, Captain Puckett, do you all have any additional insights in terms of community mobilization or opportunities provision?
Councilman Cobb, I just had the question. You said that you were in the process of identifying gang members that have reformed. Are you
Yes.
having a difficult time doing that? And if so, is that something that the probation office may be able to help with, since they stay in contact with these people afterwards?
Go ahead, Brent.
Absolutely, we can partner as much as we can, and we would love to. The more the better.
Yeah, great question.
I will, I'm gonna put in a chat, and I'll give you all my personal contact information, so that we can share that, and we can, anyone can use that if they need to, okay?
Okay, thank you. All right, Jamie or Jim, any addition?
In looking at the opportunities provision, one of the things that comes to mind for me is, do we know what already exists? And is there some work that needs to be done around identifying what is already available in our community, so that we're not recreating the wheel, recreating programs that are already there, or that could be, for example, the programs in youth development at Family Service can be tailored and adjusted. They're already in existence. They'll just need to be tailored to approach this population and that sort of thing. So do we know what we already have? And as far as community mobilization, those things to me sort of go together. Once we start engaging some organizations and community members, I think we'll start to build a pretty good database, if you will, of what resources are available in our community, and be able to start noticing if we have any gaps that we do need to then seek out someone to fill those gaps, or to seek funding to create programs to fill those gaps.
Jamie, I think that's a really important point. And I think that's what we're exactly trying to do with this model, is that each of these, we need to identify what we currently have, what we're missing, and how to form what we're missing and what kind of resources that will take. So thank you so much. I think that's a great point.
Jamie, maybe Jim, go ahead and then I'll chime in.
I'm just going to say that Jamie's exactly right. There are hundreds of positive youth development programs across the city that serve juveniles under the age of 18. The best database link that I've seen for trying to get all of the services that are available for youth is from the Children's Service Act, the Star City ARC. And I can send that to you, Mr. Council Member Cobb, share that link with you to show you, and Rabbi Cohen, that these databases exist and they're out there. There are a lot of great programs. Of course, Family Services is one of the best, and if not the best, for positive youth development. Goodwill provides specific job skills, training, education, and employment programs that help juveniles. The Youth HQ out there is fantastic. And Straight Street, of course, and numbers of others. But like I said, I'm going to share that database with you. But as we try to get to prevention, I'm not sure that we have anything that is specifically geared toward targeting gang-involved youth, but they do a great job of the whole youth population.
Thank you, Jim. Go ahead, Jamie. and then
I
Kath.
do agree. I agree with Jim that we don't currently have services for this specific target area. But I think it's easier to branch off from existing programs and make them work than to start necessarily from scratch. There
Yeah,
was something else I was going to say and I completely forgot what it was. So I'll pop back in when my brain works again.
Well, the other thing is that, like I said, those are programs that are designed to stop at age 18, and that does not seem to be where the majority of the issues are right now. So,
So Jim, you just brought to what I was trying to say and forgot. The reason that I asked the question in the larger group about narrowing down the 18 to 29-year-old is because occasionally you will see funding for 18 to 24-year-olds, I think has been my experience. And if we can sort of know better what the numbers are we're working with, we can start to look for funding that will serve that group that is absolutely underserved in this community, which are the aged out young adults between the ages of 18 and 24. And as we see on the numbers, that needs to be an area of hyper focus for us, obviously.
Thank you. Kathy and then Elliot.
That was exactly what I was going to ask Jamie, and Jim was about those people over the age of 18, so they just answered it.
Elliot, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Not right now. I guess I would add a little bit to it, and don't mean to try to be a negative Nancy on anything, because I think there's a lot of programs and a lot of opportunities out there. I'm always of the opinion, if all of these things are good and if all of these things are working, we would not be sitting here having this problem. So it's not necessarily recreating the wheel on a new program, but I think we sometimes have to give up the status quo in order to find the next level of performance. So that's all I want to say to the group. Sometimes we have a tendency to pick the path of least resistance. Is let's go back to what we already know. Well, what we already know is, given everything that's on the table, we still have a massive amount of gang involvement, gun violence, and we're trying to find a different path to solve a problem, and just be open to different ideas, and not just rely on the same things that we've done. Because as they say, if you do what you've already done, you'll get what you already are getting, in a sense. So we have to kind of break away.
And I agree with that, Elliot. I think my point is more that we have professionals and people with expertise in working with youth.
That is true.
And so for example, at Family Service, the evidence-based curriculum that we use it to focus on teen pregnancy prevention. And that has been extremely effective. In the last 20 years, we've seen teen pregnancies decrease in Roanoke City significantly. So we know that it's working. Those same people who are doing teen pregnancy prevention also know about how to build relationships with youth to do community service learning and engaging youth and social emotional learning and all of those things that they have expertise in, but we don't have an evidence-based curriculum or also connection to youth who specifically are at risk of gang or are gang involved, because our focus has been teen pregnancy prevention. We can take the scaffolding, the basics of what we already know about how to work effectively with youth, and apply them to working with youth who are at risk or gang involved. So I'm just saying, let's look and see where the scaffolding and the structure is. I think Straight Street would be in the same boat. Any of us youth serving agencies who haven't been focusing specifically on this population, we have good bones, so to speak, for how we're set up to serve. We just need to have curriculum, programming, training, those things to address this specific issue.
Thank you. And Elliot, thanks for helping us coin a new phrase, negative Nancy.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that one before.
And again, I agree. I'm not in disagreement on the youth services. I'll say for my last point, correlation does not equal causation. And even in certain things, people look at it and say, well, over the last years, a lot of things have changed. I can tell you from my involvement and my history, this opportunities provision is a key component. And I deal with guys outside of gangs. I mean, I deal with the criminal elements. I deal with all of those over here. And I can say, if they had another path, 99% of them wouldn't do what they would have done.
Yeah, really
I
good
think
point.
that's an important point, Elliot, and I appreciate it too, because the things that we were talking about a little bit earlier, can certainly help with prevention, but there needs to be some immediate intervention for the age group that is beyond 18, that can be the primary focus. The prevention activities are going to be important, and it will have long-term effective results at a low cost. But the majority of the work needs to be in that 18 to 29 group, the ones that you and Brent are expert in, that can be the main focus of the opportunity provision.
I agree completely.
Well, and it may be that though these come from the national plan that we've been exploring, that in our own model for Roanoke, our priorities may be different, and what we want to hyper focus on may be different, and it's important for us to be able to do that and know that. Kat?
So, Joe, this is a different question completely. I meant to ask it earlier, but got distracted. Do we know there was a significant rise in aggravated assault in 2020? Is there a way to find out how much of that was actually gang related?
Well, let's ask Captain Puckett.
I'd be really interested to know how much of that is violence related as well.
Yeah.
We have started tracking gang-related things specifically now. I don't know that we could do the entire year since we just implemented the new unit back in November, but we can start tracking that as we go forward for sure, I believe. Alicia, would you agree with that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure she's still on.
Okay, I'll get with Alicia. I'm almost certain we can.
Okay, that'd be great.
And domestic violence?
Yeah.
Yes, as far as that too, yes. We actually track that pretty regularly anyway, because we have a different section for that as far as our aggravated assaults. We can specifically relate that to domestic violence when we write our IVRs.
Thank you so much. I just found that number and the increase from 2019 to 2020 to be shocking.
Yeah.
I did the math. It's almost 72% increase. If I did math, that's pretty serious, just so y'all know.
Thank you. Kathy, I'll turn it back over to you to guide us through these social intervention and suppression and organizational change. And I think if we can have conversation like we've been doing with these first two, that'll help us build this out. And then the other thing I'll add is I'm going to create a Google document, a working document, and make that available to you all so that as each of us has information that we want to input into these and within these 5 key areas, we can do that individually. And then I think that will help contribute to our report as a whole.
Okay, so let's look at the social intervention. And as the model we have here involving youth serving agencies, schools, grassroots groups, faith-based organizations, police, and other juvenile criminal justice organizations in reaching out to gang-involved youth and their families and linking them with the conventional world and needed services. So Brent, I think that Straight Street comes right in here under social intervention. I think it's a great program. And I would love to see us get people from Straight Street involved in this particular idea here. Do people have other responses to to this point?
I think this ties in directly with what we were just talking about in terms of identifying services that are already available in the area, making sure that they're community partners with us in this work, reaching out to them, and specifically as we hone in on this 18 to 29, these aged out young adults.
I guess the other question, and I might have asked this earlier, Joe, do we have anybody on this subcommittee who is from Roanoke City Schools?
We do. Well, Tasha Steele was. Are you talking about gang on this specific working group?
Yeah.
We do not. So that would be a good addition. I will tell you that Haley Poland, who is with the school system, indicated interest in both city services and gang violence reduction. So when we have our next working group meeting, I may just invite her to join us for that.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. And then we move on to suppression, formal and informal social control procedures, including close supervision and monitoring of gang-involved youth by agencies of juvenile criminal justice system, and also community-based organizations, schools, and grassroots groups. There's a tremendous difference, I believe, between a young 15-year-old who is involved in their first gang-related crime and a hardened 29-year-old. And so I think that, one of the things we need to look at in suppression is getting the really, really bad people off of the streets and working with those who are at risk to have other opportunities before they just, basically see nothing but the future of gang in their life. I have spoken.
Notice that it's growing. I don't know how much we're going to have, so I just don't know how to.
I think Brent is not on mute. Hey, Brent, you want to put yourself on mute?
Oh, okay. I thought he was trying to speak to us.
Well, I mean, it don't work for me, but I mean.
I think it's important that we hear from Brent on this particular issue. But go ahead, Kathy. I just muted him.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Thank you. I have spoken with newly appointed Judge Melissa Friedman, who's a new juvenile justice, and had a beginning conversation with her. She is very interested in hearing more about the work of our committee and basically really working together with us. But again, those are going to be your younger people and not that 21 to 29-year-old group or the 18 to 29-year-old group.
Brent, is there, I don't know if you're back with us, is there any more you'd like to share from the work you do regarding suppression? How do I unmute him?
He's got to do it himself. You've asked it. If you hit ask to unmute, it should prompt him, but if he's not looking at his computer.
He may not be accessible.
Elliot, do you have more to say about this? I know that you're intimately involved with this aspect.
Yeah, I just think, I think the monitoring and the communication between, the PO and law enforcement is good. But to be honest with you, from a personal perspective, I put this one as the 5th most important to me, because I think it easily transitions to And no disrespect to the police, but to just a law enforcement issue, and not lock them all up. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what we're after. I kind of like that social intervention piece more than the suppression. And obviously, there's going to be individuals and cases where people have just made that hard decision. As you said, that hardened guy at 29, he's unwilling to change. He's not unable, he's unwilling, which is two different things. And yeah, at that point, you need to remove that person from normal, decent society if they want to continue that behavior. But I didn't want to turn it into that type of I don't want to criminalize what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? And more so of like, what are we going to do to assist them? But I do believe, though, once you get in there, I think some surveillance and monitoring does help. You know what I'm saying? When there's some structure and accountability, it does help a lot. And I think when we start with the youth, I think it's even more important. You know what I mean? And how do you get them if they have a first misstep? I think if I could kind of wrap this up over here, is when that person has that first misstep, how do we build something around them? How does our general community and society build something around them to correct them quickly versus, hey, you messed up, I'm gonna send you to a reform school, and then what's gonna happen in reform school, they're gonna get worse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when they come out of reform school, that suppression action didn't assist you. You know what I'm saying, in trying to change the person's mind. And that's, I know we spoke about, what do they call what do they call it when they're in the criminal justice system with the judges and all of that. But, getting judges involved, in juvenile, when you get the juvenile criminal justice system, how do we have a program to kind of help that situation out?
Yeah.
That everything isn't, from school to prison pipeline. We need to kind of stop that. So
Yeah, and thank you, Elliot. And that's the conversation that I had with Judge Friedman, and she is really very, very interested in thoughts and suggestions of this committee, and looking at data from other places as to really how to best help these teenagers who end up before a juvenile judge, understanding that in all too many cases, sending them to juvenile detention is going to further aggravate the problem rather than to provide any solutions.
and I think a person like that would be an excellent add to this whole committee. You know what I'm saying? Can give that perspective, but also be in a position to potentially drive some change.
Yeah.
When you start talking about the community mobilization and, when you start talking about the organizational change and development, that type of person impacts that, more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we can re-engage Tracy King, the Juvenile Court Service Unit has gang-trained probation officers that work with juveniles. That might be very helpful as well. I think the idea of engaging the judges is an excellent one. Juvenile judges are bent on providing reform and skill development. It's not so, the juvenile system is not designed for punishment, but a learning experience, but to have that kind of judicial leadership on this group would be great.
Yep, I agree.
Kathy, can I shift us just briefly to a next meeting for this working group?
Sure.
I don't know if you all have a preference as to the 15th or the 22nd. Would you rather, while it's fresh, just reconvene next week at 10, or would you like to wait 2 weeks and be able to gather some information?
So, Joe, the only question I was going to have for you and I don't know how people feel about this or not, but in speaking with Judge Friedman, if we wanted her to attend any meetings at all, her free time is between noon and 2.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not tied to 10 o'clock on Fridays, so.
I'm good.
And the judge is going to be extremely busy because they are down. I'm hopeful that the General Assembly will fill what is, I believe, now officially another vacancy in that court.
Could we say try for a 12:30 meeting on the 22nd?
That would be great. I'll get in touch with her and see if she would join us.
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring everybody back in. I can find the.
Great.
Tiffany, I'm going to take your gold star.
You need a gold star. You're doing a great job.
I'm very impressed, Joe.
You can go be a TV director now. You're on it.
A
This is how you
TV
do it.
director.
Yes.
Did you all hear that, Taj, Lindsay?
If you guys are, yeah, if you're.
Hey, it's a lot of work, so be careful what you ask for.
See, in my past life, I was a TV director, Taj, so I think he's doing good. He's being the technical director right now.
Gene's teaching me how to be a radio personality.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wait just a few more seconds for everybody to come back in, and then we'll do a quick report out, and then we'll wrap up for today. All right. Well, thank you all for your hard work today. I'm going to start with our Safer Neighborhoods group, and we'll just go through the different groups, and I'll have each facilitator just do a quick report out for us. Tim?
Sure. Very quickly, a question. Joe, I kind of meant to retrieve the ornament that we put on the Christmas tree. Do you have any idea what might have happened to that?
We should probably contact Downtown Roanoke, Inc. Tina Workman is the director, and I'm sure they safely store those ornaments.
Okay, that's fine. It's neither here nor there ultimately, but I was just curious. So, I mean, if it ends up there for next year, that's fine too.
Well, Tim, a shout out to you. I know that you handmade that ornament. Tim's quite a wood crafter, in case you don't know that. So if you need gifts for special occasions or anything, Tim's always in his wood shop. But it was beautiful, Tim. Thanks for making that happen.
I was glad to. It was a good thing and very therapeutic along the way. To our specific report, one of the things we want to do to move two things forward. One, Joe, your request about being a little bit more public with the community pledge to nonviolence, but also our public art project, is we realize we have several connections within our committee and then connections to people outside the committee, to sort of youth groups, youth organizations. And we would like to sort of do a Safer Neighborhoods committee meeting with some of these groups, and to test out our questions for the public art project, to have conversation around the community pledge to nonviolence, and to have our youth teach us what we need to know about social media connections with younger people and what neighborhoods look like from their perspectives. And so that we all have some homework assignments to reach out to some groups to see if we can set up those meetings.
Great. Just again, just a reminder, let me know when those meetings are so we can put them on the city calendar.
I assume they would fall under the public information.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Great. Thank you, Tim. Education. Basha or Decca, are either of them on the call, or anyone from education? They may have finished up early.
Hey, Joe, this is Philip. We finished up really early, and I'm not sure if they sent you an email with the information or not.
Okay, I'll check. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathy, you want to just give a quick recap on the gang violence reduction work?
Sure. We started going over aspects of gang violence model reduction that we have been studying and talking about greater implementation of it into the Roanoke area.
Thanks, Kathy. And Stacy, would you like to report out for city services and rapid response?
Sure. It became apparent during our conversation that the group consensus was the resource flyer pamphlet needs to be finished immediately. That was definitely a need that came to bear most recently during some of the recent calls for service in our community. Also, some of the conversation was had about our agreement on a standard for involvement, and the group wants the entire group today to have consideration and future conversations about involvement. Of course, the goal in all of this is to reduce trauma for our community and our youth, but in doing so, the conversation came up about in response to a coordinated response to also gun violence related to suicides. And so consideration, I think that's kind of a repeated theme in some of our groups is what are we going to do about that? So our group has thought that the process would probably be necessary for us to have a coordinated community response for aggravated assaults, homicides, as well as suicides that are related to gun violence. Should the family want that, at least the resources would be provided. But our group would like to have some thoughts and some conversations about that with others.
Okay. You know, maybe Stacy, that would be a good agenda item for our February meeting, maybe at the front end,
I agree, because it seems to be a repeating theme, and I think it's an important conversation for us to have as a group.
Okay. Let's talk further about that. Any of the groups that have minutes from your meetings today, if you can please forward those to me, I'll attach them to our overall minutes to send out. Anything else before we wrap up today? Our next meeting is February 12th at 10. If your working groups are going to meet in between, please let me know those dates so that we can get them on the city's calendar. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn for today? Thank you all again for everything that you're doing. I'm really proud to be a part of this work and proud of our city and our continued efforts to do everything we can to keep us healthy and whole. Thank you all.
Thank you.
How do I end before I stop? No, stop.
You can just hit end and it'll stop.
Nice meeting you all.
End meeting for all.